And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on this stage is someone who's going to share his insights on leading with vision, leading with flexibility, as well as purpose. It's time for us to get inspired by the experiences of his and discover how we can really thrive in this ever-evolving age. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Let's welcome on to our stage Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, Executive Chairman of Catterton, India.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And, I'm going to talk about a subject which stems from the theme of this conference. And it is about navigating the age of adaptability, bringing in vision, bringing in flexibility, and very importantly, bringing in the purpose. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to break my talk into 5 parts and then leave enough time to take questions that you may have. I'm going to first talk about end of an era of great moderation, because that is fundamental to why turbulence is happening. The second is adaptability. Third, I'm going to speak about vision and purpose. Fourth, I'm going to talk about what are the leadership traits required in the new world. And remember, all of you sitting in this room are leaders. And last but not the least, fitting in with Goa Fest, I'm going to talk about what should the world of advertising focus on in this age of turbulence. So let's start first by talking about end of the era of great moderation. If we look around us, the last decade and a half, we have seen the world limping with global financial crisis, a virus impacting lives and livelihoods around the globe, era of high inflation and interest rates, wars, and now the mass use of AI. This has been, to a large extent, unpredictable and tumultuous. We have seen new models of work and new models of businesses emerge, have witnessed social media strengthening its position as a platform of mass movements, beginning with the Arab Spring, and have seen the voice for environment, social concerns, and diversity and inclusion growing louder. Natural disasters have become more frequent. Climate concerns are forcing nations and businesses to start taking decisive steps beyond just talking about the issue. Now, the era of great moderation refers to a period between the 80s and the mid part of the first decade of this millennium. It was characterized by low inflation, steady economic growth on the back of globalization, relatively stable financial markets, especially in the developed economies. Now, this era has come to an end. The era of great moderation is over. Now, what have been the factors behind this? First is the global financial crisis and what I would call as the increase in financialization. The financial crisis clearly exposed weaknesses in our financial system. The financialization of the economy, with the growing reliance on complex financial instruments, leads to interconnectedness of global financial markets, and this has naturally increased the vulnerability of the systems to the shocks. And that's what we saw happening. If you recall, way back in 2009-10, when the Fed said taper tantrum, the rupee crashed. That was because of the interconnectedness of the financial system. The second important bit is rising income and wealth inequality. This has led to social and political tensions, undermining the stability of the economic system. The third, of course, technological disruptions. And this is going to impact not just a few industries, but every industry and every walk of life, both the industries as well as the labor markets. The fourth is geopolitical uncertainty. If you would recall, post the Cold War, there was a unipolar world. The era of unipolar world is again over. The geopolitical tensions, trade conflicts, uncertainty around international relations, this is also added to economic instability. The fifth is the climate change challenges. There's a very clear recognition of the significant threat, and a new dimension has been added to uncertainty and risk. And of course, added to this are the changes which have been generated by the evolving consumer behavior and dramatic shifts in the business regulations. The US Army in the 80s had coined a word called VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This got adopted by the business and the management world. And a couple of years back, we had an American anthropologist called Jeremiah Cascio. He talked about a Barney world, which is brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. The companies that will survive in this VUCA and Barney world are those that will seize the opportunities that the changing and the tumultuous world will bring, and those that transform themselves will be ones who are able to offer products and services that are simultaneously better, cheaper, and getting into the future more sustainable. Let me now talk about adaptability. Now, adaptability at its core refers to the ability of the company, its people, the systems, the structures to adapt and respond to the changing circumstances, environments, or the competitive context. This involves being open to change and having the capacity to quickly and efficiently modify your strategies and operations and repivot your resources so that you could still thrive in the ever-changing circumstances. Now, adaptability involves certain key concepts. The first is flexibility. This involves having a mind which is open to new ideas, willingness to change plans, and adjusting to different situations. The second is agility. This is the capacity both mentally and physically to move quickly and adjust. Now, flexibility and agility are related, but they are distinct concepts. Now, let me explain the fine nuances between the two. Flexibility involves reacting and adapting to changing circumstances, while agility refers to proactively anticipating change, preparing for it, and responding rapidly and effectively. Now, if you look around yourself, in the last few decades, a lot of the value that has been created by corporations has been done by driving efficiency. That has resulted in margins going up, capital efficiency going up. But today we are talking about agility. And agility requires, at its essence, a spare capacity. If you don't have spare capacity, you won't be able to call yourself agile. Similarly, agility involves moving your talent to value. We often talk about agile organizations. They don't have fixed structures. They keep evolving. And the best way is putting your talent, your best talent, where the biggest opportunity to create value arises. The third, of course, is innovation, encouraging a culture that promotes and values innovation and creativity. Fourth is resilience. There is no business which ever moves in a linear fashion. There will be times when you will trip and fall. So bouncing back from setbacks, failures, unexpected events is something which is very intrinsic to an adaptable organization. And last but not the least is orientation to learning. Learning happens when you have the humility to say, I don't know. Learning happens when you have a curious mind, when you're open to new ideas. And learning orientation is required not just in an organization, but very importantly in the people who work in the organization. Let me now talk about vision and purpose. First, let me try to bring about clarity between vision, mission, and purpose. Now, these are often interconnected concepts, and very often they are used interchangeably. Now, vision is a broad and aspirational statement. It paints a picture of what an organization wants to be. For example, an organization may say that my brands, I want them to be present in every household in the country by 2040. That's a vision statement. That's your picture of success. The purpose, on the other hand, articulates the reason behind what an organization or an individual does. So purpose is more intrinsic. It guides decisions and actions by providing a sense of meaning and direction. Now, both vision and purpose are important. Now, coming to mission, where again it is very often used interchangeably. Many organizations, when they talk about purpose, talk about mission. Now, mission is a statement that outlines the actions, the objectives, and the activities that would be taken in the short term to fulfill the vision and the purpose. So there are very clear differences between the three. But let me now go to the substantive part, which is talk about purpose. Now, for a long time, in the Anglo-Saxon world of business, they were driven by the Milton Friedman's philosophy of business. The business of business is business. Yeah. They believe that the idea that businesses should primarily focus on maximizing profits, but within the boundaries of law, and the main responsibility of companies or business institutions is to create shareholder wealth. That worked well with the Anglo-Saxon world for many decades. But the societal expectations have very clearly changed from large businesses. And today, there is a much more nuanced understanding of what a business should stand for. It encompasses impacting a wide range of stakeholders. This view of businesses acknowledges that businesses have to play a much broader role beyond profit generation. And this encompasses ethics, social impact, and how do you positively impact the environment. Now, there are many skeptics, many cynics who do not agree with this purpose view. And the reasons are plenty. If you look at around your world, one of the big proponents of purpose, the new approach to business, has been Larry Fink. Larry Fink has been the CEO of the biggest investment firm in the world called BlackRock. And in his latest shareholder statement, Larry Fink has stopped talking about purpose because he too has been attacked immensely when he talked about purpose. Now, let me articulate why there are so many cynics about purpose. Because purpose per se looks right. Yeah, the role of the business has to go beyond making profit. You're a part of the society and you have to help the society thrive. One is lack of authenticity, clarity, and consistency. Purpose is not about articulating in nice words, framing it and putting it in your boardroom, or putting it on your website. If you don't live and breathe purpose, your stakeholders will become very cynical. The second is when your actions are not in sync with what your purpose is. There is misalignment with the strategy. You say something, but you do something else. The third important bit is if you're not able to measure the impact. If you make a very profound statement, but there is no way of measuring whether you can deliver on that purpose or not, then it's not worth the while. People will become skeptics. The fourth is when different stakeholders, they have different expectations from the business and you have not been able to align them towards a common purpose. And last but not the least is many CEOs camouflage their non-performance by talking about purpose. That's distraction. And when this happens, people lose credibility in purpose. Now, the debate between purpose versus profits will not arise if you are able to go on the path of making profits through purpose. This is not about either or. Remember, it is about and. If you as a business stand up and say, hey guys, I'm making lousy returns to my shareholders, but I'm delivering on my purpose, that won't work. Purpose, you are able to add luster to it when it is underpinned by performance. So remember something, it's profits through purpose. Now, I have been very fortunate. I've spent the major part of my working life for a company with purpose and values, and I'm on the board of some of the great companies who espouse and lead purpose. Now, what I'm going to do is share with you what the purpose of these great organizations are. First, coming to Unilever. The purpose of Unilever is very simple: to make sustainable living commonplace. The origins of Unilever date back to 19th century Victorian England, when 1 in 2 children were not able to survive because of the poor hygiene and sanitation conditions in Victorian England. That's where the founders of Unilever started with the first branded soap in the world called Sunlight. And that genetic code still exists. And Unilever has some very simple beliefs that a company with purpose survives. Unilever has survived for 130 years. Brands with purpose grow, and people with purpose thrive. The second example I'm going to talk about is of a company called Danone. It's a French multinational. I'm on the board of Danone. And the Danone purpose is bring health through food to as many people as possible. And again, the history of Danone, which is nearly 100 years old, there was a founder called Isaac Carasso. He started making yogurt using culture from the Pasteur Institute to help children with intestinal infections. And that has still remained the purpose of the organization even after 100 years. The third company I'm on the board of is Dr. Reddy's Laboratories. It has, again, a very profound purpose. Provide access to affordable and innovative medicines and healthcare solutions, because good health can't wait. And this is a company which measures how many million people in the world they are able to reach every year through their affordable healthcare and medicines. And last but not the least, being on the board of Air India, how can I not talk about the Tata Group? Now, Tata is a very interesting corporation where the holding company, 60% of it is held by trust. And whatever money they make, it goes for the charitable purposes. It's a very unique concept. And the purpose of the Tata Group is to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve globally through long-term stakeholder value creation based on leadership with trust. And they live the purpose every day. Now, companies which have defined value-driven purpose and are able to communicate, internalize, and live, they get several advantages. They have more engaged employees, they have a greater focus, more loyal customers, and there is very clear empirical evidence of better financial performance. Now, let me talk about that. What are the leadership attributes you would need in the new world? First is, very importantly, you have to prepare for and adapt to the increased turbulence. Now, remember something. I talked about certain global trends which are making the world tumultuous. And what happens is the convergence of these trends. That's what makes life difficult. And that's the reason I talked about the era of great moderation being over. Now, leaders need to rethink their assumptions about constancy, build adaptive capacity, have robust processes to adapt, and have resilience in the system. That's the job of a leader. Now, the second important bit I'm going to talk about is sense making. Remember, when we ask people, what are the traits of a great leader? You would be talking about a great visionary, a strategic thinker, a very good communicator. He can stand at the altar and move the audience. Those are the kind of traits you will talk about leadership. You would seldom ever talk about sense making. Now, what is sense making? Sense making involves pulling together disparate views to create a plausible understanding of the complexity around us, testing it and understanding it to either refine it, if necessary, abandon it, and to recreate it. In this world, you will never have perfect information. If you wait for perfect information, you will be way too late. So you need to develop that antennas of sense making. Now, this is a word which was coined by Carl Weick way back in the 70s, but seldom used. But I can tell you, today's leaders, they need to have this critical attribute of sense making. Now, sense making, ladies and gentlemen, it never results in a flawless picture of the future. No. It is not meant to be about achieving omniscience. No, that's not the purpose. It is about learning and having a capacity to foresee ahead of others. That's what sense making says. The third important bit is care and compassion. Again, this is something no one talked about as a leadership trait. But in COVID, we all understood that to recognize and alleviate human suffering, let alone address the systemic issues that cause and perpetuate it, it's time for leaders to put care and compassion center stage. You can't be talking about a bigger purpose of enriching the society and helping the environment if you do not have care and compassion. The fourth important bit is unleashing the collective genius of your team. The myth, or let me put it this way, the concept of a great leader is a myth. It really is a great team. That's what makes a difference. It's not about an individual having an aha moment. It is not about a penny drop moment for the CEO of the company. It is about the collective genius. It is about unleashing the genius of your team and harnessing the power of collective good. That's what a good leader does. The fifth, very important, you have to be purpose-driven and collaborative. I've spoken about purpose. The important bit is leaders need to be collaborative, not just within the organization, but across the cross-sections of business and society. No businesses can survive and live in an ivory tower. The days of Lone Ranger are over. You need to be able to create ecosystems. Only then you would become a great organization. And last but not the least is respond with speed and agility. Now let me talk here about speed and agility and what does it entail. Normally when you talk about speed and agility, what will come top of your mind is something to do with clock time. अगर हम कोई चीज 1 घंटे में करते थे अभी 30 मिनट में कर लिया, I am fast and agile. No, that's not what speed and agility is all about. Agility is about, very importantly, 3 interconnected capabilities. First is recognition. Recognition of a threat or an opportunity. How fast can you do it? Second is decision speed. Once you have recognized a threat or an opportunity, how fast, quickly you can take a decision on what to do. And the third important bit is your execution speed. You've recognized this, you've taken a decision on it, then what do you do with speed? So remember something, speed and agility is not linked to clock time. It is about recognition speed, decision speed, and execution speed. That's what leaders need to be. Now let me come to the last part of my talk. What should the world of advertising focus on in the age of adaptability? First very important bit is tech integration. You have to utilize AI, machine learning, big data analytics to gain insights into consumer behavior, optimize spends, and use predictive analytics to determine future trends. The second important bit is explore the use of augmented reality, virtual reality, and other interactive formats. So how could you give more engaging and immersive experience to your audience? Now, there was an adage for many years that half the advertising spend works and you don't know which part. Now, with data and analytics, that world is over. I think as advertisers, you have to bring in attribution of growth to spends. That will become extremely important, and that is something which the business will expect you to deliver, and that is something which you will have to ensure if you have to survive. And you know, when we didn't have data and technology, we could live with that world. Today with data and technology, I think there is no option but to deliver on effectiveness of spends. That's absolutely mission critical. Thank you very much.